we get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride. Ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. We're here on a Friday with agriculture meteorologist Greg Soulje, and we're going to find out what's ahead for the next, 5-7 days, Greg, and includes the weekend, which is always nice.
Yes, absolutely. And sneak peek into the longer range, and we'll have, further details on that. That'll take us through just about the end of the month of October on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness, that famous or infamous 4-week forecast. But looks pretty well. We had a little delay here earlier on into the week. We needed the rain. The rain is out, and it ought to be all ahead forward on combine action here, if it's not doing so already, for this weekend and beyond.
Very good. Of course, we want to recognize our sponsor here for our weather segment, Strauss Workwear. Strauss is a third-generation family-owned global company that designs, manufactures technical workwear and footwear for farmers, builders, and craftsmen. It's the tool you wear. So, Greg, let's put the slides up here and let you take it away.
All right, and the tools that the weather forecasters and presenters and all that other stuff use in this day and age. But first, here from an agricultural standpoint, we'll kind of bring you up to date on some of the headlines, if you will, and stuff we're keeping an eye on going forward in the next week and beyond. Otherwise, it is basically an idyllic spell of weather, not only for outdoor work and whether it's planting on the winter wheat fields of the plains or southern Midwest, or resumption of harvest-related activities. Great weather for high school football Friday evening. Great weather for anything across the Big Ten, and that's a wide area of the country these days, with the exception of maybe the Southwest and the far eastern states with regard to rainfall there. But a little local, if you will, locally from a Corn Belt standpoint, we'll put that in perspective. Still some issues getting things to mature out in the western and northwestern most of the Corn Belt. Just 60% of the soybean leaves are dropping in through Nebraska. That's about 15, 16 percentage points behind the 5-year average. So a little more work to go out through Nebraska and parts of the far west and northwestern belt of the corn and bean complex. For example, similar delays, if you will, put in that context, are occurring across the areas of North Dakota and Minnesota as well. So the warmth and the ridge, if you will, the hot ridge that's going to and sinking there that will be establishing itself will do so really over the northwestern and westernmost parts of the Corn Belt, northern and central plains going forward over the weekend into next week as well. Wouldn't be surprised we pop some 90-degree weather, for almost October in that part of the country, at least into the 80s, low afternoon humidity, good moisture reduction, dry down values, wide range of temperatures at night in the dry air and the longer night. So as good as it can be, except for any dryness and drought-related pockets out there, trying to get that area into mature mode. Everyone else ought to be able to go at it here, if not shortly, then certainly already, at least as it applies to the rest of the Corn Belt. Warm, dry weather, matter of fact, hot, dry weather in these waning days of September will flirt with. There's some of that 90-degree weather we talked about into parts of South Dakota, probably the Sioux Empire region, Core Palace region. That looks to be the most suspect areas for readings right around 90 for this weekend. If you're keeping track of sugar beets, kind of moving along right around the 5-year average. Sorghum harvest is getting going as well and progressing as you venture northward into the northern plains across North Dakota as well, coming off some recent rains and signs again of some heat and maybe some thunderstorm activity out there for next week. And that's about as far east as any organized rains will go, maybe the Red River Valley of the north or the Missouri River. Meanwhile, in the deep south, kind of a complex myriad of disturbances, frontal boundaries, plural, stuck in kind of a broad southwest to northeast to upper level wind flow. And the rain is needed. Now, we made some good amends across Florida, for example, with dryness and drought, still running at about 35% short and very short as it applies to topsoil moisture levels, 59 to 60% in through Georgia. But again, rain is underway there, and it is a very wet forecast moving forward over the next probably week to 10 days to 2 weeks over the southeastern part of the country and mid-Atlantic region. And you probably know why as well from a tropical event. Meanwhile, speaking of which, the drought pattern is dominant and really making the story in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Rogue River Basin, and Willamette Valleys are the big ag areas out there west of the Cascades. They're hurting. At least 45% of the rangelands, that takes into account everybody in the Pacific Northwest and West, are running short or poor, very poor with regard to quality out there. And kind of an interesting setup here. We talked about it a little bit over for TV this past week, and we'll do so right now with an upper weather system, the shift in the weather pattern to a little more typical early fall setup there. And they as well are going to ultimately get into a remnant tropical system, moisture from it. Narda is the name of the storm, Hurricane Narda, roughly beam of Cabo St. Lucas out in the eastern parts of the Pacific. We'll show you where that ends up here shortly. In any event, high and dry across much of the Corn Belt, maybe a few sprinkles in through Michigan this evening. Showers and thunderstorms, the monsoon set up over the southwest. Wet weather in the southeast overnight tonight. Again, maybe a sprinkle in the northern Great Lakes region, stray shower at the Canadian border. The southwestern states still continue with showers and thunderstorms through the mid to late evening. The flow is onshore. There are fronts that are stuck. There's a myriad of up air weather systems on the move as well into the southeastern part of the country. And so the rain pattern continues on there. Right through tomorrow morning, a northward shift on some of that as the scattered showers and thunderstorms backbuild a little bit into the Imperial Valley and maybe just outside of some of the coastal ranges around San Diego County. And then they build back northwest in and around areas just south of LA County, certainly into the southern Sacramento, San Joaquin, and Imperial Valleys. An arc of rain across Utah into New Mexico. The wet weather continues mid-Atlantic region down through Florida. There's a perfect snapshot, by the way, Saturday evening into Sunday, of basically the way the weather maps and charts are going to go here the next 5 to 7 to probably 10 to 12 days. Southwest, Pacific Northwest, far east and southeast, right up the middle. No expected rain. Great for harvest. We've got work to do still in the dryness and drought-related mode, and we'll take a look at that in detail in just a minute. There's another snapshot. The next 48 hours, rain in the southwest, building back in through California. Some of that, then we get tapped into Narda's tropical moisture and a wet pattern of all places into central and southern California and the southwest. Welcome rains to the Carolinas down through Georgia and Florida over the next couple of days. There is the drought monitor. Now, we had some rains late last weekend and early this past week, and there were some totals that pushed a little more than an inch east central Illinois, parts of west central Indiana, a corridor in pockets in Ohio, generally quarter to 3/4. There were some spots again that were up to about an inch, a quarter, inch and a third. And that's kind of the worst drought area, the Maumee Valley, Napoleon, Ohio, Defiance, Ohio. We used to do radio out that way a bunch of years ago. That's a big ag area, the Maumee Valley of northwest Ohio. They're in the worst of it with severe drought there. Parts of southern and east central Illinois, extreme drought in the Missouri Boot Hill, parts of West Virginia, eastern Ohio, and into the northeast New England with those little red pockets. So there's rain in the forecast there, but a ways to go in getting improvement for the northeast and New England states. And I think, we're done with anything organized probably at least in mid-October over the middle part of the country and the divide and westward, except for pockets in California and Oregon remain drought-ridden. There's a little local look, if you will, as it applies to the Midwest. Again, there were some rains about 3 or 4 days ago. We'll see how that transpires on next Thursday's drought monitor. Maybe some modest improvement, psychological improvement, some topsoil, rangeland, pasture land improvement. And we did get some of those rains, by the way, into some of the equine the country of Tennessee and Kentucky. A ways to go to get that back to normal. But there is the perspective as of last Thursday. Severe weather, ain't much to speak of. A couple storms might approach severe limits in the desert southwest. General broad garden variety thunderstorms in the southeastern part of the country. Little change as we move on through Saturday and Sunday. Onto the tropics. We talk about it. People come up to me at these farm shows and get-togethers. Why in the world do you talk about stuff that's going on, a couple of thousand miles away? Because it has a direct influence on the upper air pattern across North America. That's what drives the weather systems. And just because you've got weather already to the east of us as it applies to the heartland doesn't mean it's not going to influence us here in the heartland, the plains, the Corn Belt, and really everywhere across the continental United States. So you got 3 systems out there. Gabrielle moving out to sea, Umberto right around Hispaniola, and then there's a third system. I don't remember what the I name is going to be for this year, but there it is down right around between about I would think that looks to be Cuba and Puerto Rico, somewhere in that range in the Caribbean islands. That is a system that bears watching over the next 24 to 48 hours. Probably will become a depression. probably a weak tropical storm. Problem is when you get those systems that are so compact and close to one another, they fight for all the atmospheric energy. So you may have two systems, but neither one of them are going to amount to much with regard to hurricane or strong tropical storm potential. But it does build up. Once you suck that air in, you got to bring it out someplace else. And the closer those systems get to the southeastern coastline, the stronger high pressure up aloft builds west and northwest of the storm track. And that's where we sit. It strengthens the trough over the southeastern and eastern part of the country. So rain there, warm, dry weather here. And that little troughiness that we had in that system out through the Pacific, we'll take a look at that in a second. We'll put another trough in the middle part of the country. So you have a trough, ridge, trough position. Commodity guys, forecasters, smart rangeland and commodity people and farmers and producers know you put the ridge in the middle part of the country, and it's tough to break it down. It's kind of what we call the omega block, like the Greek letter omega, a little curl on one end, curl on the other, builds up in the middle part of the country. And that's where we're going to sit here for the next couple of weeks for openers and probably even longer than that. There's that third system. Like I said, I don't have the names in front of me right now, but that was probably going to become a depression, maybe even a named storm over the next 2 or 3 days. Marginal support with things so close. There's a trough there. There's wind shear. There's strong winds up aloft. So we'll do probably nothing more than just increase rainfall. Flash flood potential, yeah. Drought relief, yeah. But some of those cotton and soybean fields may get too wet in the Carolinas and down through Georgia and Florida going forward over the next several days. There's NARDA, N-A-R-D-A. I don't name them. I just report on them. And there they are, kind of a beam of Cabo St. Lucas in the southeastern and east central Pacific. It's going to make a turn to the north and northeast and then make a run up towards San Diego. And there's a potential for a little piece of this thing to break loose over the cold California currents and increase rainfall in all places in early October, late September rains in central and southern California, again, like we've seen already, and accentuate the downpours and flash flooding in the southwestern regions of the country. So both ends of the country will have some correlation to their weather tied to the tropics. So there's the wave that we just talked about on the headlines going forward. Pardon my second line of the lousy typing there, but we'll get maybe some future potential development. It's nothing to run to the exits for. But again, sometimes storms surge or seas and rainfall can be a problem from time to time out of these particular types of weather systems. Scattered showers and thunderstorms continue on in the southwest, and everyone from the Divide to the Appalachians north and south, high and dry the next 7 days. There's a perspective on rainfall over the southwestern reaches of the country along and west of the Divide. Nice to see some actual rain come in the forecast, not just lightning and fires in the Pacific Northwest, and we may dribble a half dozen amounts of drops of rain out of the upper Midwest, and consequential on a pretty good swath of rain, half a foot or more. We think the next 7 days. This is computer model generated, but the right idea on some multi-inch, potentially heavy rainfall. And sometimes when those winds, even if it's a docile tropical system, run perpendicular to the central and southern Appalachians. We had an event maybe 2 or 3, 4 years ago where we had 4 or 5 feet of rain in the central Appalachians. It drained into the Tennessee Valley and then back into the Carolinas and had just horrific damage and loss of life and flash flooding. So got to keep an eye on sometimes the rain aspect of these tropical systems. The next 7 days from an upper air perspective, you can see the low, the U-shaped configuration, the trough, the upper system, and a pretty snappy system for the time of year in the Gulf of Alaska, making several waves run inland of the Pacific Northwest. There'll be some scattered storms, too, as far east as the Divide, Big Sky country, probably heavy and severe livestock people. The warm ridge remains entrenched across the Rio Grande Valley, and we're going to actually tap into, you can see how the lines are kind of jiggled a little bit. There's a little wiggling going around off of the Baja of California. That's just sort of the upper air reflection to NARDA. The flow is in off the Pacific, off NARDA, into the southwestern part of the country. So that, too, will help moisture in the Pacific Northwest. That also, as well, will exacerbate the monsoon setup into the southwestern part of the country. And you can see a myriad of little lows kind of dancing around each other. That's a weakened tropical system. That's an extra tropical feature. All just adds up to rain in the mid-Atlantic and the southeastern part of the country. And while those systems run up the Atlantic and the trough moves into the western states, in between, we got the ridge. We strengthen the ridge. You can see that high building southward out of Hudson Bay, James Bay. It's not a cold high by any means, but the winds will pick up, the air will dry out. That's why we have about these daytime to nighttime ranges of temperatures. Champaign County, a place where we do radio, we're down to the mid-40s this morning, and we have forecast highs there the next few days into the low to mid-80s. with a wide range of so 40 degrees daytime to nighttime, that diurnal swing of temperatures as well. And we'll plug Sarah's school. I believe it is the homecoming parade this afternoon down there in Champaign. And the ball game is tomorrow noon, I believe, a Fox game. The national guys are in there with USC. I believe USC is ranked 21 and U of I ranked 23, I think, coming off that thing they did in
last week. Let's just say coming off last week. Yeah.
Coming off last week. And from my contacts down there, my spies and radio friends, they've got the right mindset, I guess, going forward against USC. That is a tough club to stop the running game. I understand. So we'll see if that was an abomination last Saturday for Indiana or not. And I don't even know who the Huskies are. NIU are playing. They lost last week to I believe it was Tulane. Anyway, after last year's win over Notre Dame, forget it. We're done. So
right,
anyway,
we're done. We take that and run.
That's it. And we're gonna run into temperatures here, Sarah, and you can see the warmth into the northern plains. That is the forecast highs for the day today and tomorrow. Actually, that would be Monday to Tuesday, and then late next week, the warmth yellows and reds across the middle part of the country. Upper air pattern just has the trough in the Pacific Northwest, the Gulf of Alaska. Broad southwest wind flow up aloft. You get these kind of temperatures around here, anything but early October. And there may be a little piece of energy that moves into the Plain States areas as well at some point mid or late next week. Nothing going on east of the Mississippi as well. The next live stream when we will update. No, we're not going to update because we have no reason to update, but come by anyway because we'll update the winter outlook on the 15th of October. So there you have it on a Friday. Good luck to Illinois and the Huskies. And the Huskies. They're in DeKalb today. So, or tomorrow, I should say, on Saturday. So we'll see what happens out there.
Looks like great weather for World Dairy Expo next week, too, for those of you heading out that way. I've kind of been checking that, and Greg seems to indicate that the other forecasts are correct. So so there's no need to bring anything of a winter persuasion because it can run all different directions up there for World Dairy Expo this time of the year. But more or less almost a late August, early September versus early October feel up there at Madison going forward next week. No rain in the forecast either. Perfect. Looking forward to that. Well, Greg, thank you. We'll be catching up with you from World Dairy Expo next Tuesday and Friday, so we can give you a full report from Madison. Excellent. Safe travels. Have fun and have a great weekend. Very good. And thank you all for joining us as well.